Motion to adopt the agenda is presented.
And that's just one agenda item?
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Yes. Counselor Olson, all in favor? Carried.
So, Mr. Mayor, I thought the best way to proceed initially would be to basically address any questions that council may have from the budget presentation they had a couple of weeks ago, and a chance to take the information home and review it and just make sure if they've got any questions or clarifications, we can deal with them. Then basically we'll turn the floor, well, as you can see, I put some options or some recommendations in front of council that they may want to consider to reduce the deficit. I'm sure council may have some ideas of their own, but at the end of the day, as we're moving through this, if someone wishes to make a change to the budget, to whether we're adding or subtracting, we'll do it as we've done in the past. So they'll put a motion on the floor and the motion will be discussed and voted on, and depending on the results of the motion, that's how that item will be dealt with in the budget. So does that sound like a plan? Sounds good?
Yep.
Okay, I'll open the floor for questions, clarifications that you may have.
What is your recommendation? Stole my thunder, so.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Those are just some ideas I had. Certainly there'll be others, so. Who wants to go first? Vern had his hand up.
Councilor Carroll.
Sure. I just got a question on your salary there, or your contract salaries, you know. For the two people that you got contract salaries for, it's I was just wondering if it would be more feasible just to hire one person to do the contract stuff. Instead of,
So
I was looking at the totals that you give us, but I looked at.
yeah, I guess my comment on that, Councilor Thorough, is the people who we have on contract, specifically David and Tracy. Tracy has her expertise is in bylaw. David's expertise is in emergency management and development. So I don't think it's if we wanted to go out and start fresh, you could try and hire someone with those skills, but I think you would be challenged to have those three areas. So
Yeah, no, I was just looking at,
and I think when you look up and you add the amount of money spent between emergency management, development officer and bylaw, you'd be hard pressed to hire someone for 55,000
yeah,
full time.
we're just looking,
Plus benefits plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're employee, yeah.
yeah.
Anyone else? Councilor Olson.
So just clarification on the special areas industrial transfer reserves. That 300 in the MSI and the federal gas tax. We shouldn't even say MSI anymore. That's a mistake.
But I think it's still good, I think, until the new fiscal year.
Anyway, so-
That government money.
So those are counting as an expense to be dumped into reserve right now,
Yes.
but then do they just immediately come out, or is everything else planned with the? downtown bill?
So what this budget reflects, so the MSI for 2024 and federal gas tax for 2024 would go to reserves and would not be pulled back out this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
I always like to have a year's worth there. We're going to clear up our outstanding or deferred revenues if we move forward with the downtown project. But we could bring those in, but I don't like to catch us, then we're really short-handed if something does come up that we want to move forward on that we're not anticipating. So we would then, the plan would be to bring those back in 2025. And if we move forward according to the budget, we would use that towards the Palliser Pioneer Trail rehabilitation project.
So.
And this, sorry, just to finish with Councilor Olson, so the special areas money is new money. So my thought was, we're trying to build up some money for infrastructure. We didn't have that 300 at our disposal before, that extra 300. So my thought was the 300 extra we got in 23, 4 and 5 would give us $900,000 towards Palliser and Pioneer in 2025. So
And is that put directly into an interest earning account?
it goes into our general account, which is decent. I think we're at 5.2% interest on it right now. So.
Okay, is there any opportunity? Like, I know that the interest rates are increasing a little bit.
They have increased significantly.
And
Yeah,
is there an opportunity for something that earns more?
possibly. Yeah, no, we could.
Like, that's what I'm wondering, if a lot of this money is set away.
The
and-
MSI and the federal gas tax, though, we won't get that money until we put in a project for it.
Okay,
So, but the extra special areas money, we could explore with our local banks, a 1-year GIC.
or something that maybe there is I know that we've been approached about a certain project and certain things that they're able to do, given, amounts you've got in an account.
Yeah,
And depending on, clientele, so I would imagine the town would get premium, or whatever they're able to do, it never hurts to ask. Maybe
Yeah,
there's another.
we could certainly, go down that road and see what interest rates we could get on GIC or something. We're right now have a pretty decent, return at 5.2,
Yeah.
so,
Well, and not having it locked in, so that it can
Well,
still be
yeah,
taken out
yeah,
as
if
needed
something
and
came up,
such, yeah.
yeah.
That was all I was.
Did I get your answer?
Yeah, that's good. The $10,000 project management assistance, I know we brought that up before and it was just kind of stuff, like, is that Gwen's? where
Well, that's
she
just,
comes out of?
that's where it would come up. We have something on the side of the desk that would need to get to that we're not able to get to and get it done, that there might be a little bit of help that we can pull in to do some of those projects.
Yeah.
But they would be very project specific. It's not, you come in 2 days every week. It's project based.
How do we deal with those situations in the past?
In regards to,
We're saying now we need money on reserve here to hold back to deal with bringing somebody in. How did we deal with those
We
situations
had
in the
full-time
past?
staff.
we had full-time staff, so when we made the transition with the retirements, we eliminated 2 positions. So sometimes some things, we just don't have the ability to get to it, and it gets put on the side of the desk, so we put some money in there so we could tentatively, if we needed to, move forward on some of those projects.
I guess I'm just curious to, if we cut the positions, to me, there would have been a vision that we could have handled what was taking place internally instead of trying to, hire contract work to.
But $100,000 versus $10,000.
I know.
And that's the exact difference. So when we didn't replace the position, we freed up that money, but we did put some money in just in case we needed to have some additional assistance to pick up some projects.
Because the only other note I have, for vehicles, I know everyone likes discussing them. A new vehicle, I mean, of course, they never get miles out, they look nice. I went through 2 different communities in the last week of similar size, both smaller than Hanna. One of them had really beat up trucks. And I feel it's valuable to look like a respectable community. And one of them had nice looking trucks, not new, but they were nice, just like ours. Most of ours look quite nice. A couple don't. And as I see some of them go by, there's, whether it's summer staff or something, in some of those, there's an old extended cab that looks pretty rough. I would support some used replacements. whether it's those bottom end ones, maybe a $15,000 truck to replace some of those. I know a lot of them are regular cabs that are out there. If it's an extended cab that we want, or a quad cab. So I had each of those at $30,000, and then we always get stuck in this too, like, we award the money to the departments that they can solve their problem with X amount of dollars. And then we spend the whole year criticizing how they spend it. And that's a frustrating moment for me, with what a policy of the local shopping was one. Have to spend so much money, that's our job, as to what they can spend. And when we say do more with less, but you have to spend more to do it, it's kind of confusing direction. So I would like those numbers almost cut in half. I would think $30,000 and then give them to the staff for each department. And if they decide that's two trucks, if two lower end trucks would replace some of their lower end ones for now, and that would get them through multiple years, I'm sure.
Yeah, the only challenge, and again, that's where you have to be, again, provide some flexibility. When you're buying a used vehicle, it's not apples to apples, so I guess you're back into, basically if we find something, having, our staff look at it and, Wes has got mechanical experience and look at it and say, is this, a good value? Is this a good price? And then, buy it on the spot, so.
What kind of a discount do we get as a municipality now? Because I know it can cut back from what it was.
Yeah, I don't know if it's huge. But like I said, if we bought it right now, if we went and bought, a basic half ton, you're probably looking around 60,000. And then, of course, the advantage you've got with that is you've got the warranty for 5 years. But that certainly we'll make do with what council, the mayor and I had this discussion the other day. We could get through, another year, another 2 years with our fleet. It's just at one point, then you're just hamstringing future councils when you might have to replace 3 or 4 or 5, so. But yeah, no, that certainly is an option. I don't know, I can't tell you what the used market is like. I know when vehicles were short and they didn't have the chips, they weren't making the new vehicles, used prices skyrocketed. So I don't know if that's leveled out or come back to get a good used one. I haven't been looking, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has been looking or
These market's
knows, but
still relatively strong, not as strong as it was, but it's still fairly
It's
strong.
still expensive to try to find one.
So my other two notes, the 2%, either 1 or 2% tax increase, I'm comfortable with that after 6 years of zeros, 5 years of zeros. I'm comfortable with that. Whether it's 1 or 2, we can have discussions. The other thing I wanted to point out, I looked at the consumer price index for Alberta, the CPI. That's what we use in other boards for basically calculating COLA. From January 2020 to September 2023, it has been 13.6%. So everybody in Alberta, it's costing them that to do the exact same. And we've awarded our staff a total of 6%. So I've seen municipalities and I've seen various places struggle to hire, struggle to retain. So I had a note, I wanted to see COLA at 5% for 2024, would add an additional $33,000 to the entire budget. I think that gets close. It's additional 3% on top of the 33%. So that puts it still shy of living the same way everybody did in 2020. And I think that's a comfortable COLA. There's a lot of places when we look at the past that significantly higher throughout the years, and same ideas we have with tax to try to keep things caught up and keep things on par. That was my other. And that catches everything else that I had.
any more questions? Gotta be some more questions.
Well, mine is just the infrastructure. We need to continue to work on infrastructure. I mean, after having a B and basically telling us we were 1.3 million, we're going backwards. Seeing some of the work and challenges that Public Works is having right now. you know, it's not gonna get any better. It doesn't get better with age like a lot of things do. We need to start staying on top of it. For example, the Palliser and Pioneer Trail projects. You know, the 1.7 now, the bridge was 1.4 a year ago, it's 1.7 now. So Pioneer, Palliser, hopefully it doesn't go up from 1.7, but ultimately, if we don't do those two projects, they won't be 1.7, they're gonna be 3 or 4 because of the fact we're gonna have to do some infrastructure work underneath them. So I think we need to stay on top of that type of projects as much as possible. Start maybe looking at doing, you know, some of our core downtown streets, you know, that are 40, 50, 60 years old. It's not a popular decision, but, you know, after watching, what some of the bigger centers, Edmonton, I watched theirs fairly closely and basically, to do what they wanted to do, they're looking at 12 or 13%. I think they settled on 6.5.
6 something, yeah.
Yeah, Soyuz was 13.7 is what they settled on finally. I mean, they were over 18. I can't imagine trying to get an 18% increase on taxes.
Well, the interesting comment, and I know Councilor Murphy made it, the last meeting was based on taxes and tax increase only. Without making any changes to this budget, we would need a 20% tax increase. And that's not gonna fly. Not even close. So, the other thing that I thought, and I haven't put forward, but I can certainly, we don't have to decide on it as part of the budget necessarily. But I have thought that we haven't, you know, again, everything goes back to, it is costing the resident. But we haven't amended our water and sewer fixed charges for a while, like the cubic meter cost has gone up from Henry Kruger, but we haven't changed our fixed costs. So part of me was doing some math, and if we increased our fixed charges on our water and on our sewer by $6 billing period, each one of them, that would give us another close to $50,000 or $100,000, $50,000 for each one, that could specifically be put in reserve for future infrastructure requirements. Again, it's all coming back to the users, and I know that affordability is a key word and a key comment these days, but that's why I'm really happy to try and keep that, if we were able to keep that $300,000 transfer from special areas into infrastructure, because that'll help us get somewhere. So even down the road, once things settle out, if we continue to get that 300 and we're able to put 300 aside for that, and if local government fiscal framework and Canada Building Fund, the federal gas tax start to build up, you might, between the three of them, be pushing close to $1 million annually that you can designate specifically for infrastructure. So
That's kind of what I was looking at, is I wanted to know how much, the water rates, you know, at 55 per billing period, how much they bring to the revenue and stuff. And I was looking at maybe 250 a billing period for both the water and the sewer. And
that's an option, Councilor Bowden, whatever council wish to do on an increase. And if this specific request would be then to go towards offsetting the deficit, or to help keep building the reserve. We already, out of that fixed fee right now, transfer $100,000 a year, 50 to water, 50 to sewer. But we know that doesn't get very far, so.
And if you're increasing the water, given our pool, we're also increasing our expense as well, are we not?
Well, no doubt. Well, the per cubic meter cost too, it hits us like it hits everybody else. So yeah, it will affect our facilities, but the fixed cost for our facilities isn't bad, because the arena might use $5,000 worth of water, but it's an extra $5 a month, a billing period, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, the biggest use there is on the consumption.
Hmm.
Or the biggest cost is the consumption.
Well, and that might help people, you know, be a bit more conscious of their water usage and if they're not watering their concrete or their side.
But I do think, but that's on the cubic meter side, Counselor Bowden, and I think we have noticed over the years as our costs per cubic meter have gone up. I think we've seen, and Garth's been here before council, you know, expressing that concern that their pricing as they drive the price up, the people who irrigate, who do this are tending to pull back a little bit. And again, from Henry Kruger's side, in the, you know, they've always wanted to be, our residents to be heavy consumers of water because they build their capital
Just to-
budget through that, so.
Well, and a lot of our, due to the water and sewer lines, so, you know,
Yeah.
maybe some of that should be shared. A garbage collection I was looking at as well.
We have to be careful, Counselor
I
Bowden,
did, well,
just
just
from
to
the
see
fact that we try to operate, and that's why we put that sheet in your package. We try to operate our utilities
mhm,
at a break-even basis, so right now, you know, you can see garbage, we are breaking even on it, so that's why I don't think we would necessarily increase that pot.
but if it's been the same since 2019,
But our
Yeah.
contract has been the same since 2019 too, so we haven't
Mhm.
had any increases there, so.
I had a question about FCSS. I believe in our expenses. It is in excess of, is it $60,000 over the budgeted amount? Is there some,
Oh, in the overview?
yeah, and I guess I always wonder if you're putting a budget together and you're consistently over your budgeted expenses. Kind of why put a budget in if you're not gonna stick to it? Or
Well,
are there other areas that could be addressed? Are there other areas that maybe could look after some of the FCSS stuff, like programs or not, or more grants that they could apply for?
So FCSS, we are required to spend, it's an 80-20 cost share. So province funds us 80%, they give us 92,000, so we've got to spend another 20 on top of that. We spend more than that,
Yeah.
on top of that. And I guess if council wished to make some changes to there, the program area would be the program area where you'd want to cut. And I think we highlighted those in the overview quite well. A lot of, you know, we spend 30,000 to the family marriage therapy program, 7,000 to the family resource network, 5,000 to healthy families. There could be some things if, it's always been on the table if council doesn't want to hold, Canada Day, the way they hold Canada Day, or hold music in the park. Other than that, a lot of our
Seniors week.
costs go to that counseling portion that we're partners with. So,
Yeah, and they're all in dire, like,
Yeah,
I
it's,
think they're all in dire need of, extra funding and stuff, is there some other way to be able to, generate more funds or? Yeah, I just don't know, is there,
I'll honestly tell you what, we know from moving through this, you know that there are areas of our budget that are lost leaders. They're subsidized. And so we do still have to produce a budget, but that budget will say we're subsidizing the arena by $250,000. It's just the nature of operating those types of facilities and offering those programs, so.
yeah, it's just a question, I'm just wondering, is there some other way that things could be dealt with more efficiently or somehow? I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
don't,
just don't know what the answer.
I don't think so, unfortunately, like we've went down to one staff, in the FCSS area, so
Yeah,
Who is that staff?
Michelle Taves.
So how come she's in here 3 times? It's community
Well,
service coordinator
So
under.
she's-
FF or
so-
FCSS.
what we've done is council's aware that there's, she's expressed interest in changing from an employee to contract, partly because of her, job with the provincial government with Nate, just to try and create some little more degrees of separation. At the end of the day, so what you see when we go through there is we've taken where her salary was normally allocated percentage wise and took the contract amount and just split it up that way. At the end of the day with the contract, whether you like contracts or not, at the end of the day, probably we're saving some money by being on contract versus salary and benefits, so.
So you're only getting 3 days out of 5.
No, that one's not 3 days out of 5. That's 5 days a week. It might not be as normal, regular 8 to 4:30 hours, but it is a full-time contract, so.
Who coordinates or monitors those hours?
I do.
I have a question. At our last budget, meeting, we had I can't remember what the health spending that we put into, I think it was a term savings.
Yes,
I can't remember what the name of that was. I was trying to look that up.
I don't know if we've got the name, but we brought it into the revenue that would show from it is, I gotta find the right. We would pull it into, return on investments, so. The line on the first page, so we've got $120,000 GIC. We're anticipating that we're bringing in, when that matures, it should be around $5,000 interest, so we'll bring that in. It's not identified specifically in the budget, but it's part of the return on investment line. So return on investments is our money we generate interest-wise from our general savings account as well as our BMO investments.
So where is that in here? That's
It's
under,
on the very first page,
oh.
the revenue.
I was- Okay.
down towards the bottom bracket, concession.
Oh, I see, okay.
Return on investment, so we have built in that interest into that line.
Can we take that out at any time then? I know it's in a GIC, but
Yeah, no, they will probably mature. I don't know what the rules are on the GIC, but it will be coming due here this spring. If council chose to pull that in and just as general revenue, that would be an option.
well, I'm in favor of it because I think that, you know what? I think after I've had some time to think about how we've managed that money, I think we've mismanaged, in my personal opinion. I think that needs to be, we could use that at this point in time, so I'm gonna advocate that I'm in favor of, using that return on investment, that health spending money to bring down our deficit. Yeah, when we talk about water and our sewer increasing that, I guess I'm just listening to my public a little bit. And, the one thing that I keep hearing many times over the last couple of weeks are with some of our citizens. And this is what they've said to me, we'd rather have less pot watering and no tax increases. So when I think of the water and what we're, if we're thinking of an increase and how much more it's gonna cost us as a town too, for all our watering with our parks and pots and all the rest of it. I think in my opinion, I woke up one night after hearing this comment a few times thinking, how can we look maybe at beautifying our community a little bit different? And one thought that came to me is kind of like the museum did with their lights on their buildings out there is, maybe we need some ingenuity on rethinking how we have beautification in Hanna. And like all our pots around Hanna, maybe, and I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, maybe it's just a whimsical idea, but we could adopt a pot. And somebody could adopt a pot and look after that pot as a cost savings to the town.
versus the town paying for all the
Yeah.
plants.
Yes, and all the pots around town. And the beautification, honestly, I'm a little bit streamlined myself. I've heard this comment more than once in the last little while, and, I'll agree that, you know what, I probably more than anybody loves greenery, and I spend probably way more than I should every year on, planting and stuff in my own yard. But, when it comes to, tax increases and water and sewer increases on the backs of our citizens, I think I have to reconsider what our beautification in our community looks like. I mean, we have lots of parks that are well maintained, but do we really need all these other, plots around town? And right now, when we're trying to cut at this level, I think I would want to be looking at what that would look to make, to decrease that at some level there.
So the water is the small part of.
Yeah, it's small.
Okay,
Yeah.
and right now, as the budget sits, just to clarify, there is no change to water and sewer, just the consumption use.
Yep, not yet.
6 cents a cubic meter, so.
Agreed.
But that would go towards, everybody's usage.
Yes.
Kind of like, so
Yeah,
the school board would pay. The school board
Yeah,
would pay
yeah.
for it. Those that may not be paying, that may be tax exempt would also.
No,
be
but-
contributing
but
Correct.
you mean on the water side?
On the sewer and water.
Sewer and
usage.
water, everyone who uses that commodity pays.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, there's no exempt, right?
No, but I'm saying that the school board is exempt of
From
paying
taxes,
taxes.
yeah.
And so then, this would be a way of, if you're concerned about your water, cut back on it. Everybody gets the same increase across the board.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, but yeah, I don't like increasing taxes either, but
I think the other thing I looked at here is at the Fox Lake, the transfer to reserves of $30,000. It's my understanding that we have about 90,000 in reserves right now for Fox Lake.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to at this, and I guess my philosophy is a little bit, I understand putting money away for a rainy day, but it's raining. And we need to use some of this money. So I think in my opinion, I would be advocating that we could use that $30,000 to decrease our deficit as well.
what was the reserve for the Box Lake? For
So we started building it,
they fish?
to try and reestablish Helmer as a better
Fish hole.
fish trout pond. And we didn't have the right idea on what it would be, whether it's aeration, whether it's pumping different water in. So back then, we decided to, back in 2020, council made a decision to, well, we don't know what the answer is, but we know long range, we wanna see if we can create a good fishing pond out there. So let's start putting some money aside so that we are able to either match some grants or be prepared to move forward versus not doing anything and then waiting and all of a sudden it's a $200,000 project. At least we have some money saved up to cushion the blow. So since then, we've been in a drought and water levels are at probably close to all-time lows. So it's not anything that's imminent on the going to happen next year. That's why I'm thinking, that's why one of my recommendations was to forego the transfer in 2024. And see what happens as we're moving forward with runoff and refilling that lake. And then I think we can probably put some more thought around what is the best solution for creating a good fishing pond. So,
Wasn't there a study done on that?
yeah. Yeah, there was a study done that basically said the pH was too high. Basically because the water is runoff water and comes across the soil and brings all that. And the other part that was a challenge for it was a little bit of, even when it was full, it was a little shallow in terms of the water got too hot for the fish to survive healthy. So there was a couple of things there that were reported in the report,
So
so.
what that study cost?
It was paid for by the Alberta Conservation Society, so I think it was a grant offset cost, so. I think it was 10,000, 20,000. One of the two jumps out at me, but we did get a grant for Conservation Association. Go ahead.
Okay, so, I agree that the 30,000 could be taken out for Fox Lake because we already have a cushion. And it'll be there for upgrades if needed. I know we've just done a lot of electrical
Yeah.
upgrades, so we're in a better place than we were. I think it's gonna continue to be full. Just because it's economic to go there instead of having a home. I agree with a COLA increase, though 5% would probably have us rotting tomatoes thrown at us, so I would recommend 2. Though I agree with 5, just because I'm pro people. When it comes to the vehicles, 1 vehicle, not 2. If we hold off on the loader and possibly use that money that's in a return on investment for the plow truck, then we'd basically be just about even.
So my only comment with the loader, Counselor Murphy, is the loader we've replacing is our 2007
Yeah.
loader. And it's not in great shape, and it is one of our most highly used pieces of equipment.
So those two new, the loader and the plow truck, those new prices?
Yes,
Revenue prices with the trade-in.
yes.
So if that's the case, then that would be our priority this year and then no trucks.
But the other option, Counselor Murphy, that I put forward, Counselor Olson had suggested it at the last meeting for financing those equipments is to borrow from ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's where I've proposed as an option that we could purchase both the loader and the plow truck in 2024 and basically borrow from
And
ourselves.
spread it out.
And then spread that 400,000 out over 5 years, with 2024 being year 1.
Yeah.
So that saves 320 in 2024. It does add some money to 5 and 6, but
But it would, with those changes, we would be in a really comfortable place.
that's a
You know,
significant change, and it's-
Getting it to 0 is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, 100%. We have to be 0.
The utilities are so with the carbon tax and the distribution fees, which are just astronomical. I would really like us to not touch the utilities. Just let these poor folks, it's a struggle. You see it at the food bank. You know,
We are, though, Counselor Murphy, I would still recommend the 6 cent an increase on the.
that I have no
Okay.
problem with. You have
The
to.
fixed, like I said, this
It's-
budget doesn't have anything changing in the fixed
No.
rates. I just thought it was an option I thought about if you wanted to start putting some money away for infrastructure, that you could make some changes to the fixed charge, which could be then allocated to future infrastructure. But I know I understand where you're coming from. There's affordability is a challenge out there across the board. But I also, when we start this process, we also need to realize that those same affordability issues that hit us as residents hit the municipality as an organization. So we're paying those same increased utility fees. We're paying, look at this year, we're paying 50,000 more just for
Police.
policing. And we also have, insurance is going up, just like yours does at home, it goes up for us. So, you know, it's tough. And as Councillor Olson said before, we've done a good job of maintaining, and that's why I put those figures in the sheet that I handed out to you today. So you can see those are the municipal tax dollars we've collected for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And they have actually decreased from, I can't remember the first year I had on there, 2018. The municipal tax has decreased and been fairly stable. I don't think you'll see that anywhere else. But there comes a time when you keep holding the line, you're going behind.
And that's where,
Thinking long-term.
yeah, a 2% tax increase is fair and equitable. And I'm okay with the 2% there. It's just the rest of the utilities. I know that, and the employees, you have half, I don't know when the peak was for staff in the town of Hanna, but they're all doing a lot more with less. With
Yeah,
less.
I don't, I'm no disrespect to staff. I struggle when we use the word lot more. It's very subjective. But I think we're trying to do what was done and what needs to be done. And I know when we went through that retirement phase, we basically phased out staff and a half position,
Yeah.
basically. So, which is, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you've got 20 full-time staff, you're looking at 15% cut, so.
The only concern I have about that in particular is that the community services is also a revenue generating position. By focusing on events and bringing people into the community center and the rec center, and all of those things actually generate revenue. Finding the right grants to apply for, and those were all things that, you know, Gwen was outstanding at doing. And I'm concerned when a person is now working, not always here, that some of that stuff might get lost.
So my only comment regarding that, Councilor Murphy, is that person, I don't see that person as the revenue generator person. Their job isn't to be out recruiting, people for events.
No.
We play the role that we provide we create the facilities, we create the opportunities for our local organizations to bring those things here, whether it's minor ball, whether it's minor hockey, whether it's minor soccer, versus trying to have someone who's out there doing all of that. So I don't see it as a revenue generator. There's certainly on the grant side. There's always things that are out there that, the more time you would have to be able to research and find them and move forward, there's might be some gems out there that we don't catch, but I don't think that there's much there that, we've missed in that change. We're fortunate, I think, Councilor Murphy, that my background is in that area, so I'm able to help fill the gap a little bit there. And I think we had, as we've talked before, our community services foreman has some significant expertise in operating facilities and managing facilities. So as we've contemplated, is moving him up he's done more, he has taken on more responsibility.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of shared it around the table, and I think for the most part, we're managing it well.
And as long as Mr. Neal remains here, we'll be good. But when that changes, there's gonna be an expertise that's gonna go.
Potentially.
So I'm concerned about that, the vacuum that's gonna be,
Maybe there'll be an upgrade in expertise.
But I think, Councilor Murphy,
that's
I
true.
think you wait till you get to that situation, and you might find that, but you might find the person who comes in has some expertise somewhere else. So I think it's something to keep in the back of your mind when you move forward with the next individual. But I wouldn't want to sit here and say right now that they wouldn't be able to fill some of that role, so. But it is something to keep in the back of your mind moving forward, 100%.
My other only question is the SCBA packs that I know we have to buy, that's 342,000. That could also be expended out by borrowing against and spread it out over a few years, could we not? Because
You could.
they all showed up at once, right?
You could, so the 340 cost to us in the budget is half that. So it's 170. So you could do that as well if you needed to. I think we're going to do it, my focus would be on equipment.
Equipment. Yeah.
If things were really drastic or tight, that certainly could be an option. But I think if you see you're making some of those changes to the budget, you won't necessarily need to do it there and then, because every time you do that, you're just pushing the problem down. We're fortunate we have the cash and we're able to interim finance ourselves.
Yeah.
I know Councillor Olson had mentioned financing. It's the same thing, except we're paying ourselves and we're not paying ourselves interest and financing rates, so we are losing, the interest that we would have generated off that money, but, I think that's a short-term gain as we move forward, and it's well worth it. I would recommend as you move forward, if we go through that this way, it's always easy to basically say, okay, we're not gonna pay ourselves back when times get tough. If you've got a lease payment, you have to make that lease payment. So it can be tempting sometimes to say, well, I'm not gonna pay us back this year, or we'll defer it another year. But I think it's important cash flow to keep that, we pay ourselves back.
So I have a question, regarding the commercial building use. We sold that building. Is
Yes.
that, revenue from the building not going to the general account? Or-
Yeah, no, the revenue shows up as cash flow. But I don't, when it's recorded, at the audit time with the auditor, they'll have that as land that we own, so there'll be amount, so it basically is a swear
You know.
on our fiscal picture, because we got cash for it, but we've also lost that asset that they've got a value set aside in tangible capital assets for, so.
And the visitor information center, although, Harvest Sky will be applying for the grant.
Yeah.
If that does not go through, should that not be budgeted for covering the loss as well, if that were to happen?
I don't think it would necessarily have to be budgeted at this point in time, but it's certainly as we move forward. And again, we'll set this budget and we will make some amendments to it prior to setting the tax rate in May. So there might be an opportunity there if we feel we're not going to get it, that we could put an expense there to operate it. Go ahead.
One, popped in mind when we were talking about fire department. This would be a calculation for you, I suppose. Advisory council passed an increase in their wages, so, or whatever that honorarium, their hourly stuff, so.
Yeah, I was aware of that.
Special areas did?
Yeah.
So
And
special
I
area-
assume that means it's across everything and.
Yeah.
every-
So special areas board passed a motion at their advisory council meetings to increase the firefighters' pay from $30 an hour to $40 an hour.
I'm gonna become a fireman.
So it does impact us, Councilor Olson. I think right now I would be comfortable leaving everything where it's at. We basically looked at that, David and I, and that could be another $25,000 cost to us, of which special areas pays half of. So it's 12.5, so it's not a big number. And fire is up and down. So like this year, we paid 91,000 in salaries for fire. Next year it could be 80, could be 110. Like that number, that number flexes, and at the end of the day, similar to what I say in other situations, it's our budget, but at the end of the day, if we hit our budget on firefighters, we don't say, oh, you're not responding to any more calls. We try and make our best average and estimate in terms of what it's gonna cost. So we may at the May meeting, Councilor Olson, maybe make a tweak there, but it's not a significant change overall, so.
Yeah.
But it did surprise us.
How come our fire department has more equipment than Airdrie or Chestermere Lake and major centers or larger centers?
I wouldn't say we do,
Well,
if you wanted to look at their equipment. So, and remember, that's
everything's new.
shared with special areas.
I don't care, special areas, I mean, that money could go somewhere else too.
Well, we have a contract with special areas to
It's
manage their department.
ridiculous. The amount of money
Wild-
that Goes into the fire.
Wild accusation to say that Airdrie has less than Hanna. There is nothing you can base that on, Fred. That is really changes some credibility of statements.
So I think we have good equipment, don't get me wrong.
Got damn good,
I think
equipment,
we've got good equipment.
damn good,
Um,
put it that way.
So that industrial transfer, we've, just for clarification, so the last 2 years, we've taken what we got in that industrial transfer and we put it into reserve?
No,
Okay, just, can you say,
No.
tell me
so
what,
I'll read, so
okay,
our previous budgets up until this year, like even our 23 budget was a $300,000 industrial tax transfer from special areas. They, out of the goodness of their heart and the fact that I think their assessments has increased significantly, and I think them wanting to support their urban communities,
Yeah.
said we're doubling it.
so last year was 150,000.
No, last year was 300.
Okay, the year before,
This-
150.
No, it's been slowly, it's going from 200 to 300 a couple years ago. When I first started, it was 200 for a number of years, then it went to 300 and it's been 300 for 2 or 3 years. Then this year, like I said, fall of this year, the call is we're going to double it. So what I thought, my thought process was we're already operating on the 300 they give us. Let's take that 300 and put it into reserves. We could simply take that 300 and solve our issue on our deficit, but I just thought it gave us an opening there to start putting some money aside for some bigger projects that we know are upcoming.
What about using a portion of it and putting a portion of it away?
You could, you just,
Half and half.
like I said, when you have to deal with Pioneer and Palliser next year at 2 million, then rather than using that, you're gonna have to come out of it with tax dollars.
Maybe we'll get more MSI.
So in 2022, what did we do with that money then?
We used it as part of our operation. It went
Okay, in
into our
2021,
operation.
what did we do with that?
Same thing. We've always used it as part of our operation.
Okay, I will be advocating that we use some of this again.
Well, we were intending to use 300 of the 6.
For sure.
That's council's decision if they want to use more of it to offset operating costs. I just felt it was an opportunity to start, again, trying to prepare for our infrastructure challenges. So,
We have to start building some revenue lobby there.
I just felt it gave us an opportunity there. It was a bit of a windfall.
So what's the revenue, what if we put into revenue, into reserves every year? Like, cause this, I mean, we keep hearing this, we have to build, we have to build. So what did we put away last year? What was put away the year before that? What
So
was the
we've
year?
been putting away $100,000 for water and sewer. And we've been putting away about 75 to 80 on the recreation side. And 30 at Fox Lake Park, just the last 3 years. So we haven't, up until 2021, we started putting money in the rec reserve because we paid off the advance for Centennial Place. So again, it gave us an extra 90,000. So we've been trying to build up that pot because we know if something major happens at one of those facilities, it's gonna be a big dollar. And we didn't wanna not have some money trying to save up to be prepared for that. So we probably put about 230, maybe 220 as in reserves right now. It's just basically the last 2 years. Before that, it was just 100,000 on water and sewer,
How old's the Olympia?
2008.
Well, and previous to that, there was money that was put in reserves for the community center. a few years ago.
Just 50,000.
Yeah.
That
But,
was,
but then after it was, the grant was not approved, then that money was drawn out and put into operating.
no, it's still there.
Oh, is
It's
it
still
there?
there,
Okay.
yeah. It's still there.
And we'll still have to match if that,
Oh, 100%. If we
And
have
it's-
any grant
and
that,
it's 80-20.
it depends on the last one we applied to was 80-20. And our share of that, our 20% share was 450,000, I think, so it was a $1.8 million project.
Have there been any plans for the skate park? I know there's money that is set aside for that. Have you
So,
heard anything
yeah,
on
no, we're a little late on it, but we did get, a skate park supply company came in and provided us with some options for replacing equipment and doing stuff like that. And so we have, shared that, trying to share that with the school in the new year in terms of with some of the kids, if we can get them together, or parents, and say, which option of these do you like or do you not like, and move forward,
So it was
so.
interesting, when I did my grade 6, sessions, kids were really,
Governance?
yeah, the governance one, kids were awesome.
Yeah, so we've been working with Kelly Lewis. They did have, last school year, they had a project-based learning group, but I don't know if they've got a project-based learning group on skate park this year, so.
What is the usage, the utilization of that percentage? Like how often, how much, like I'm.
I would have I would have no idea how to quantify it. It's like a playground.
Daily,
So,
Daily, yeah.
Well,
Is
I
it-
think the money has been put there and put away, put there, put away.
Well, last year,
And there was, yeah, nothing was invested in it, and, it would be nice to see something done with it, because it gets to a point where it becomes more of a hazard than a center. So
it would be hard to quantify numbers, but it's.
I'm
it's
just,
like-
I was just curious, yeah, just, what the usage, I'm just.
I know talking to my wife, it seems like there's somebody there after school every day, and I know if we go to watch my grandson play hockey, even in the wintertime, there's still people not using it as a skateboard park, but using it as sliding off
Yeah.
of this and climbing on that. And
do you think the school would put any money towards that? If it was kind of
I
like a
would hate,
matching or
I would hate
project?
to speak for them, but that's not their role. But
Wasn't their role to put in $1 million football field either, was it?
well, that's their field.
No, I know, but if it is something that, a person can ask about.
Oh,
see if they're
certainly,
interested in
certainly we
doing
could.
that.
We
Yeah.
could do an exchange for the work we do on maintenance of the old Hanna primary property.
Well,
If they would.
Yeah, no,
in lieu of-
we could certainly, have a proposal there to see if they would be interested in funding skate park improvements.
Historically, have they contributed to capital stuff?
Not that I can remember, Counselor Olson.
and that's
It doesn't
one
mean it
thing,
won't.
History
Yeah.
can change
That-
anytime.
that's one thing that I have a bit of concern with
You
is,
can't change history.
is that,
Oh, you can.
we've got this one.
You have in your own family.
And they, we give them free access to the arena, to everything else. And it just, what is the return? Maybe that's something that could be, they don't pay taxes. And, if they've got a surplus on funds and everything, perhaps maybe there could be a project they could invest in, and we could ask for their maybe partnership in it to help maybe bring something that might be more beneficial for those that are, and maybe there'll be even that many more that would look at this.
No, that's certainly an option. Again, I think the premise has been, and the premise in most communities is that, we don't want duplication of facilities. We want to maximize the use of both of them. And they are the same taxpayer at the end of the day. And I think from our perspective, the fact that we're able to use our arena, that has a significant impact on their education in terms of quality of education that parents are happy with, kids are happy with, and when they speak about, oh, the school's great, I love the school, I love the community, it just, it works. But, I think, I don't know if you'll find any municipality that doesn't have a joint use system that, you know, use back and forth. I won't question, we don't get, the town doesn't get as much use of J.C. Sherrick as the school gets of our facilities. But, I also think that there's for our community to use their facilities more than they do, especially their outdoor turf now that they've got that built. That's a community, that's for anyone to use.
You can't just go on that anytime. I heard the other day that you can't.
No, it's not. It's open.
So you just go on there
You can
anytime?
go on there anytime.
And just walk on?
Yeah.
Somebody
Make
told
a
me
great
that's
dog.
awesome.
Yeah, it is a great dog.
No? Stop.
No, you do. And when we had an example, I'll use some of your family members. They had drop-in flag football.
Oh, yeah.
Went and played flag football on there. So they encourage the community to use it, obviously around their school functions. But it is a community asset. And the doors, the locks are supposed to be open. There are signs on them, no dogs allowed, but that, I don't know how, if that's followed accurately, but it's, you can generally go out there anytime and throw a football, run, walk, do whatever.
Well, that's, yeah, I apologize. That was my understanding, is there were locks on it and that it was not open. So that, yeah, my misunderstanding, I should have checked it before. But it just sort of seems, you know, maybe if there is a bit of a crunch or something with taxes and every expenses are increasing everywhere.
Well, I'm not saying we wouldn't have that discussion with them. That certainly is an option.
The discussion about redoing the agreement.
Well, either redo an agreement or if they wanted to contribute to a capital project. Yeah.
When I look at the our overall budget every year, and I mean, it's hard to pinpoint. I try to see where, you know, if there's any gravy trains anywhere.
There's no low hanging fruit.
And, you know, I guess, yeah, it's just tough because rather than always put this on the backs, and I know we can all say, you know, we haven't done an increase, you know, for so many years, but, all our taxpayers are already contributing at different levels. I mean, they're buying memberships, and just increasing in taxes, to be honest with you, I am not going to support it. I'm not supporting a tax increase. I think that we have to look at, you know, more flush areas and make some cuts in some areas where, you know, where we may not say there's low lying fruit, but where in fact there is low lying fruit. So you know, and I pointed out a few things that I think, but I just think sometimes we have to look deeper to find areas that, and I'm not talking about staff, because I think we've cut probably beyond where we need to cut in that level in most departments. So, but I think we have to look beyond. I'm not in favor of putting anything more on our citizens. I would like to attract more citizens to come to this area. I'm not supporting a tax increase. I think we need to look harder and find where we can balance this out.
Two things better than I agree with, you know, cutting back on certain things, like as far as the flowers are wonderful and everything, but you know, maybe it should be more of a perennial plants. You know, so we don't need to have so many, you know, an individual that is, that's all they do, basically. It's time consuming and I don't know, it looks beautiful, but you know, at what cost? You know, can it be cut back to maybe every second tower, there's a power or a plant hanger or whatever, or, you know, some way to cut back a bit. I think too, that some people, it's an insult when you see how much money is invested in the plants in the area when they're struggling to pay for food and that sort of thing. Yeah, maybe there is something that we can cut or minimize or change, whatever. My understanding the spray park, did they ever pay you the $10,000 that they said they would pay after it was built for a couple of years?
I don't recall them.
Oh, yes, you do. They indicated they would, yeah, we'll raise the funds and we'll invest, we'll put it in $10,000 for the next year or whatever, but I don't think there ever was any money
No.
that was brought in after.
I don't recall any discussion on covering operating
Yeah,
costs.
yeah, isn't that convenient?
Was capital costs,
No,
and they,
this was for operating and stuff, yeah, it stood out in my mind.
I think there was some
Because I was
comments
not in
and
favor of it to begin with.
I think there was some comments, and again, this is going back a number of years
Yeah, it is.
ago, that if they, fundraised and had any excess dollars, they would put that towards
Wow.
operational costs. That would be the only
I think there was.
comments that I recall,
I think there
so.
was sort of a
I
discussion.
don't think there was
about
ever a
going
commitment.
to- I guess I took it different, that they were going to do some fundraising and help to pay for the first couple of years anyways.
We are a very fortunate community. I mean, I sat most recently with someone from a bigger community and we're just talking back and forth about infrastructure and they, every time they'd ask me, well, do you have this in your community? And I say, yeah. And they're like, wow, how do you afford that? And then they'd ask me this and I'm thinking, we are so fortunate with what we have, but that comes with a cost.
Comes the
And-
cost of burnout for people that have done all the fundraising and stuff, and then they are criticized and.
And you know,
That's a hard
and
thing
all of
all
this,
the time.
all of the infrastructure, I mean, there was
Everybody's-
a lot of man hours put in with all of
Yeah.
Everybody's
that.
burnt out on that,
You
any
know,
volunteer bills.
But I'm just saying overall, for a small community, I feel fortunate, like my kids didn't lack in anything growing up here. Because we have so much, but that does come at a cost.
You're 100% right.
And, you know, and I don't know how you balance it all out, because it's great. There's nothing I'd wanna take away, but somehow there has to be a balancing in it, in all of it, because I can't keep paying more and more either. Just to have all that we have. I pay personal, I pay, you know, as a business owner, you know, it just, yeah.
No, I will agree wholeheartedly with you that we do, for the size of our community, have some great amenities. And again, that's part of why we try and brand ourselves as live the lifestyle and have those amenities and quality of life so that people do want to move here and or continue to live here because of the amenities we have. So Councilor Warwick, 100%, it is a balance. It costs to have those amenities, but does the cost to have them in terms of attracting people to the community or retaining people with the quality of life, balance that off? That's the $64,000 question.
And it's a lot of work for us to continuously, you know, I mean, I haven't lived here probably as long as lots of others, but to continuously, you know, be putting out to do that attraction and retention is a continual workout.
But I think when you look at the marketing materials that Harvest Sky has put out, again, it's live the lifestyle, come to our community, we have these amenities, you know, we're using them to draw people in, so. But you're right, it does come at a cost.
So what percentage would we have to cut each and every item that's budgeted in here to cover our deficit? 1%, 2%?
I wouldn't hesitate to guess, Councilor Crowley.